Good morning, everyone. I'd like to meet or introduce Nick Delgado and his therapeutic anti-aging remedies. So I'm going to turn it over to Nick.
I think I have my own. Hey, Facebook fans. We're live. We're broadcasting live from another feed. And our topic is anti-aging medical therapeutics. So what is it that happens as we age? How many here would like to have more energy? Let me see a show of hands. How many here would like to reduce the wrinkles, improve your skin, help it to look healthier, clear of any blemishes? Let me see a show of hands. The skin is like a reflection to your inner health, and beauty does start from within. So I always like to share with the people that we've discovered some amazing things that have to do with your balance of your hormone levels, the foods that you eat, your activities to detoxify. All these things affect your skin in a very, very, very big way. How many here have a friend or a relative or you yourself has suffered from a heart attack, a stroke, or some related vascular disease such as neuropathy, poor circulation of the feet, where you have tingling in the feet? Any of you have conditions or concerns or a friend or relative who's had a problem such as that due to poor circulation? And you're not alone. At least 50%, more than half of the entire population of the United States, taking into account both men and women, the number one, still the leading cause of death is heart attacks and strokes. And I think it'll continue to be the leading cause of death, partly because it's a silent killer. In fact, more than half of the cases of people who are stricken with a heart attack or stroke, their first symptom is their last. They die suddenly. That's it. Now, what is this ticking time bomb, and how can you detect it? We have easy detection methods. How many here, if I were to ask you right now, what is your current cholesterol level, and your LDL cholesterol, which is, quote, the bad cholesterol, and the HDL cholesterol, how many here know your level? If I were to ask you right now, approximately what level or range do you have, and then just qualify it with a basic diet that you're on at this time? And raise your hand if you know your cholesterol level. Okay, Dennis, what? I'll repeat what you say, or just come on up here. Just come on up here and share with me what your cholesterol level is, and maybe a little history and how you met me and why you're here. But go ahead.
Okay, my cholesterol level is normal. I don't know the exact numbers, but I've been told by my doctor that it's just fine. And because I'm just vegan and I eat only raw, natural, real food, and that's it.
You mean like real food, like fresh fruit?
That's it. That's it, doctor. Fresh fruit. That's it. Every
Vegetables,
morning.
beans, rice, what else?
That's it. That's it. Oh, beans and rice. Mostly I start out with some grapes, some oranges, some apples, and orange juice in the morning, then a salad at lunch, and then maybe some, my protein source is from beans, from sprouted beans, and from salad dressings made from beans, some sprouted beans.
I love that.
So and sunflower seeds.
Wow, awesome. So you've been doing this for how many years?
Since about specifically this strict of a diet for the last 10 years. But I started becoming a vegan or vegetarian in 67.
1967.
67, that's right.
Wow. Okay, so that being said, was there something compelling that caused you to switch or go over to that diet from, I'm assuming, a meat-based, dairy product, Western-type diet? What was the influencer that caused you to make that big change?
Two things. My father was a vegetarian, and I worked on a crab boat in Alaska. And after working on a crab boat in Alaska for a year and feeding all these guys all the steak and I was the cook, I decided I'd become a vegetarian. So that was it, kind of.
That's pretty honest and sincere. Dennis, there's another component to health and anti-aging that you're following quite well. Mm-hmm. Tell me about your exercise routine.
Okay, I get up in the morning. I start with about 1,000 exercises, seriously. It's real simple. I do them in bed, just move my body. I learned this from Charles Atlas when I was a young kid. And then I do a run on the beach, and I do some yoga, meditate for half an hour, and then that's how the morning starts.
How long does that take you?
I do an hour and a half every morning.
Do you think that investment of 90 minutes of your day has contributed to an overall quality of life and health compared to your peers of the same age? How young are you now, Dennis?
I'm over 70.
Wow.
Yeah, it's without the workout, there is failure. You have to have a workout. Never miss a workout. Never miss exercise. That's the number one thing. Exercise.
Are there other principles that you're employing now with herbs or supplements? Tell me by name.
Well, I
or
take some of
specific-
your supplements.
Oh.
They're really good.
Good. Tell me about that.
They're the best. I've been taking them off and on for a couple of years. I just started a new regimen yesterday.
Yeah.
So I'm happy because I do lack some things. I got the blood test yesterday, and it showed that I was missing a few things in there. And Nick's hooked me up with these supplements. So
Yeah, adrenal DMG, liver detox.
That's right.
A few of the things that I think you got started
yeah,
with.
yeah, that's right.
Very good.
Okay.
Okay, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Dennis. Give
Thank you.
Dennis a big hand. Now, Dennis brought up an important point. He basically said that he's on a very vigorous, continuous, and consistent fitness routine, right? 90 minutes a day. Come hell or high water, you're out there working out. And usually outdoors, is that true?
Outdoors every day.
Outdoors. So you're getting the daylight. It's stimulating your hormone levels, your cortisol. It's helping the testosterone. It's helping your body to recuperate, rejuvenate, because the body does need sun, and first thing morning sun is beautiful for the body. Or sunset, either one is the best if you can get that, right? And you can. It's just a matter of planning and consistency. The other important thing that Dennis brought up was he's on a plant-based protein diet, a diet that sustains all the protein you need. You'll never be deficient. You don't have to eat fish, chicken, turkey, eggs, or meat to get enough protein. He's getting all of his protein from potatoes, rice, beans, peas, sprouts. He went into a nice little review of what, a very important review, I might say, of what his diet regime includes. I've seen people, and he mentioned since the early years that he's been on this kind of a diet regime, where they say, well, I can't get enough protein or calories and I feel weak on a plant-based protein diet. That may be because you're trying to eat the same small portions that you normally would have when you're on a meat, dairy-based diet, because the caloric density is different. Therefore, in other words, a plant-based protein diet, you really will eat substantially more volume of food. Right, Dennis? True?
More volume?
More volume, more food.
Actually, I eat smaller meals, less volume.
Okay, you eat smaller meals throughout the day.
5 meals, 5 or 6.
5 or 6 meals a day.
Small meals.
It's a nice,
Very
nice regime. Okay, so let's look at that. Would that protect his arteries from strokes or heart attacks? Most likely the number one cause of death, heart attack and stroke, Dennis should be able to prevent or avoid, right? Now the other thing is, Dennis commented he's in his 70s. So when you reach anything past 35, 45, 50, 60, 70, 80, your hormone levels start to decline. It's an inevitable part of aging. So the next realm of development would be to do something as I do for 26,000 physicians around the world. I post forum blogs and discussions about the importance of hormones, diet, and exercise. And last but not least, the power of the mind. What do you focus on? What are you doing to be the best that you can possibly be? So if we're going to conquer not just heart disease, I'm now going to include the subject of cancer itself. Nathan Pritikin was the first to introduce me to what we now call today lifestyle medicine. And lifestyle medicine encompasses a healthy, whole food, plant-based diet with little or no processed foods. That includes the elimination, where possible, of processed sugars and processed oils. Any separated oil is processed. Your fats need to come from whole nuts and seeds, avocados, olives. Stop getting it from the direct oil in your diet. It's very toxic to take in oil. All you have to do is look under a microscope, do a simultaneous triglyceride test, measure the amount of fat in the blood, and you'll know what I'm talking about in seeing the ramification of separated oils streaming right into the bloodstream and sticking the blood together. Last night, we compared Dennis's blood to a gentleman named Tracy, who might show up here in a little bit, and he had poured oil into his soup, olive oil, and it went right into his bloodstream. And he, being a naturopath, he mentioned, you know, that there's 8 million red blood cells at the head of a pin, and when that oil floats in your blood, it clumps things together. Nathan Pritikin was the first to alert me to that, and he also went on to explain that the very animal-based products that tend to clog the arteries from high cholesterol, particularly high LDL cholesterol. So when I asked you, the audience, how many here know your cholesterol level, when you say it's in a healthy range, that's a red alert to me. Healthy, by your doctor standards, is just a comparison of other men and women your age with cholesterol levels that are destined in a country that has the highest rate of stroke and heart attack. Therefore, let's reassess and redefine what ideal healthy is for your optimum cholesterol level. What is it? Does anyone know the ideal cholesterol level for a healthy population where they have little or no strokes or heart attacks, like in the blue zones, like where in Okinawa, where they eat mostly sweet potatoes, and in certain parts of Asia, in Thailand, and the Bantu natives of Africa, the New Guinea Papuan people who eat also a lot of sweet potatoes. What is the optimum cholesterol level? The Tarahumara Indians, the long-distance runners in the world. Do you know? The ideal cholesterol should be, and we can test it in the room next door, you can get it tested by your doctor, you can go and have a quick finger stick and measure it, should be 100 plus your age, and not over 160. So since Dennis said he's in his 70s, he should have the cutoff at nothing above 160. So let's say, Holly, you're how young now?
43.
So your cholesterol should be above 143. Now the LDL cholesterol, which is the bad cholesterol, we've looked at worldwide studies where cardiovascular disease, as I mentioned, stroke and heart attack, is non-existent. And it's in those cultures where they have an LDL, the bad cholesterol, low density lipoprotein, and LDL cholesterol of under 95. So your HDL can be somewhere between 30 and 60. That's the good cholesterol. Some people had purported that so long as you had a good high HDL, you'd be protected from cardiovascular disease. That's not been proven to be true. You have to have a ratio, and the ratio is 3.0. That is HDL to total cholesterol. If your HDL, say, is 33 and your total cholesterol is 133, that's somewhere a 1 to 4 ratio. Somewhere about a 1 to 3 or 1 to 4 or less is better than anything above that ratio. Nathan Pritikin also did some early studies where he measured prostate, he measured cancer cells, and they drew blood from individuals, and they had them on a meat-based diet. And those individuals on chicken, fish, turkey, eggs, and meat, they took their blood, and in a culture of cancer cells, the cancer cells grew rapidly and out of control. They then took the same people and they put them on a plant-based protein diet. Sweet potatoes, rice, beans, peas, fruits and vegetables, all whole food, soaked nuts and seeds. And they took the blood and the petri dish with the cancer cells were eradicated and disappeared within 10 days. Your body makes a decision within its own immune system to isolate and attack and destroy and remove abnormal cancerous cells on a daily basis. However, if your body is filled with meat, cheese, eggs, and dairy products, one of which, the principal cholesterol, the higher the cholesterol intake, like in Dr. Jeremiah Stamler's study on cigarette smoking, he found no correlation with direct cigarette smoking and lung cancer. The highest correlation was the higher the cholesterol level, the more likely that individual would develop lung cancer. Why? Because something about exogenous or external cholesterol taken into the diet, because your body produces all the cholesterol it needs. Remember I said it should be 100 plus your age, so if your cholesterol should be 143, that's where it should be. If it's anything above that, anything to say above 160, particularly above 180, most of that's coming from exogenous, outside from your diet that you're consuming, and that excess cholesterol will paralyze your own immune system, and it will reduce its ability to attack and destroy cancer cells. On the other side, those people on a whole plant-based whole foods diet, they discovered that as the cholesterol level was lower, that even in cigarette smokers, and Japanese, by the way, are known to be a culture that do a lot of cigarette smoking, yet they have a lower incidence of lung cancer than they do in Chicago, where they eat a heavier meat-based diet and even actually smoke less. So sure, cigarette smoking can trigger the cancer, but what did I just say about, say, the Japanese eating rice and vegetables, which is their principal diet, or the Okinawans? Even if they smoke and it triggers the cancer, the body's own immune system can go and eradicate those new cancer cells developing on a daily basis. However, if you eat a meat-based diet and you are basically smoking both, that cancer, when it's triggered, it will go out of control. At one point, it takes 20 years from a tumor to go from a division of a few cells to millions of cells to the size of a tumor. It takes nearly 20 years before any kind of imaging detection will even detect the cancer. So you could have had cancer in your body for 20 years before, like Steve Jobs, who had pancreatic cancer, before it finally manifested from him working in the computer industry and being exposed to toxins and soldering. And in those days, there were no EPA laws about, being exposed to these outgassing of chemicals. And so he developed pancreatic cancer. And then at the end stage of life, they subjected him to chemotherapy, radiation, and radical surgeries, and he died prematurely. I believe he might have survived. But then again, cancer is very dangerous. Now, he was on a vegetarian diet, but it was a fake vegetarian diet. Everything was processed. He was eating all kinds of processed soy, processed, everything was processed. He had the money, he could afford it. To my knowledge, he never switched over to whole food, raw food, plant-based diet. If it was me, I would have submitted to him what I call the 50 steps to dealing with building up the immune system. If you go to, from your phone, text the word Nick, N-I-C-K, to the number 72,000, and you'll get a special broadcast and a list of information. Also go to fightdisease.info, and from there, you'll get the information that you need step by step to build up the immune system. The reason I'm so passionate about health and anti-aging is, in my own case, having looked back through my own family history, starting with my own, this is a picture of me when I was just fresh out of Arroyo High School, and I went to USC, the University of Southern California, and at the age of 22, I was clinically obese. I had high blood pressure. I weighed somewhere over 220 pounds, and I'm only 5'8". You can see how heavy I was in the face. I was trying to hold in my stomach for the picture, but I couldn't hold it in. And in that particular image, I had had high blood pressure for nearly 6 years, all throughout high school and into my freshman year in college. And it was about that time, shortly after playing in the Turkey Bowl, which was a football game against the Pasadena Police Department, where me and a bunch of guys went head-to-head with these guys. But at halftime, I fell to the ground, and I had found out that I'd lost consciousness and lost feeling on the whole side of my body. And I had suffered a small stroke. And it was at that time I realized that I needed to make some drastic changes very quickly. Otherwise, I would end up an invalid at some point. My father, years later, had developed a stroke, and the doctors put him on diabetic medications. They put him on prostate medications. They put him on blood pressure medications. And for 15 years, I pleaded with his wife and his family up in Northern California to change their diet and lifestyle. I even flew him up to John McDougall, Dr. McDougall, MD, and who's written some marvelous books on whole food eating and lifestyle medicine. And he agreed with me. My father needed to change his diet, get off the medications. As his blood pressure improved and his profiles improved, he wouldn't need the medications any longer. But the family was concerned, and the doctor was right? We couldn't override what the doctor expected my father to do. And until he had another stroke, and finally, the family said, you can intervene, Nick, you need to do something, because clearly what he's doing now isn't working. Now, you have to understand, when I went up to Northern California, and this is my little 7-year-old Roman, my son Nicholas, who's 23 now, and my brother Brandon there, my father couldn't even recognize who I was. He couldn't carry on a conversation. He was so drugged out from the prescribed medications that he could not carry on a conversation. He had stage 3 of Alzheimer's, dementia, that most doctors would say, there's nothing you can do about it. However, what was my first choice for him? I looked at what Dennis found out that was important to him. He was a chef on a ship and a crab ship, and he changed his diet. My dad didn't have the whereabouts to understand what he needed to do, right? His wife was the one preparing his food, so they served him Meals on Wheels. Do you know what Meals on Wheels is? It's a blatant 4-food group, meat, cheese, eggs, dairy product, basic, inflammatory, disease-causing, heart, cancer-causing disease diet. And it's free, so, you know, seniors love the Meals on Wheels, and it's delivered every day. And I said, wait a minute, we're going to put a little change. We went to the health food store up in Paradise, California, and I bought $300, including a blender for him and a juicer. And I got home, and we stocked his refrigerator with beans and peas and fruits and vegetables and potatoes and yams. And I went about showing his wife, Marilee, how to prepare these foods in simple fashion. And we took a crock pot and we started up some beans. We got a casserole going with potatoes and brown rice with chili salsa, and we put corn tortillas. And my dad had a great appetite. He was never one to not have a full meal. So he, being unaware, because he was all drugged up on the prescribed medications, we just put the food in front of him, and he ate it like a healthy guy. Just ate it all up. Well, after about a week, this food and the blended drinks that we were blending up, juices, I would take the Omega juicer, juice it, put that green juice as a base in the Vitamix, put sweet potatoes, raw sweet potatoes, in his blender with greens and fruit and all the whole food, and make him a big drink to drink every day. So he drank that down every day. Now, he had a prostate problem. He had diabetes. He had a history of 2 strokes, right? And the doctor swore that eating all this fruit and potatoes and vegetables would cause his diabetes to go out of control, and we better be prepared to increase his insulin use. But quite the opposite. I had my own equipment there to test his blood sugar, his triglycerides, his glucose, his cholesterol. Within 10 days, his blood sugar had come down to normal. His cholesterol had come down to what level? 100 plus his age, since he's in his approaching 80. So his blood cholesterol came down to 145, 150. Within 2 more weeks, 3 weeks altogether, the doctors was shocked. He was off his insulin for diabetes. He was off his oral diabetic medications. He was off of his prostate medications, and he was able to go off his blood pressure medications. And lo and behold, by the 5th week, he came back to us. He was able to talk to us. He was able to go out to a Thai restaurant in Paradise, California. We ordered fresh, whole vegetable food without oil. The waiter was very compliant with making foods the way we wanted them. No added chicken, no meat, no fish. And he was telling jokes. My father, who couldn't even recognize me nearly 2 months before, was telling funny jokes to the point where the whole family was laughing. And it was such an emotional experience for us to see, after 15 years, my father was lost to me and came back to me. And yet this same thing could be reproduced in every senior care center across the country. I even went into Stanton and Midwood Community Hospital in Orange County. And this is nearly, 1980. I'm really dating myself. So 36 years ago. And I went to the doctor, Dr. Kent Lehman. I never forgot the doctor. He was an internal medicine specialist, and he was such a big part of the hospital because he was always referring patients into the hospital for their hospital care and stay. And I said, Dr. Kent, I'm going to do 2 things for you. Number 1, I'm going to bring you about 100 patients a month. But I'm going to ask one request. When you hospitalize them, there's going to be a wing in the hospital where they're going to be served whole sweet potatoes, casseroles, fruits, and vegetables based on my cookbook, Simply Healthy. The earlier one was the Zero Cholesterol Weight Loss Cookbook, which you can probably still get on Amazon, used somewhere. We have a few copies here with us. And so I sat down with the registered dietitian of the hospital. And at the hospital, they thought I was nuts. They said, what do you mean? You're going to take away the meatloaf and the bacon and eggs and the cheeseburgers? Our patients will revolt. I said, they're going to revolt? They can't even recognize who you are. What the hell are they going to revolt about? So, we started serving these foods. There was no patient revolt. They were sitting in their wheelchairs, drooling, out of it, on their drugs and their meds. But after 2 weeks, I did something else. I said, I don't see any treadmills here, but we're going to get your heart patients up and walking up and down the aisles. Well, in those days, It was bed rest when you had a heart attack or something similar to that. And I said, no, this is crazy. We're going to walk them. We're going to do Holter monitor, EKGs, make sure their heart's safe. We're going to find out what pace they can walk up and down the halls. And the nurses were chasing me everywhere because I was taking the patients up and down the aisles, and the nurses thought I was freaking crazy. So what the heck are you doing with our patients? They should be in bed, resting, letting the edema build up, letting the fluids build up to their heart, causing worsening of congestive heart failure, reducing the heart ejection fraction, making them so sick that we can put them in ICU and then really earn a lot of money. I said, no, we're walking faster than you keep up with us. Lady, you better get on this diet. You RN, you better get on this diet too, because you're going to end up one of the patients as well. And so, literally, after a few months, these people were transforming. They were getting off their medications. They were seeing the same thing that happened for my father. And I can only tell you that if every hospital in the country were to get this message and follow these guidelines, I can tell you for a fact that we would dramatically reduce the burden of our healthcare and our bankrupt healthcare system. We can no longer spend trillions of dollars on sick people. We have to take control of our own health and get people out of the hospitals, out of the sick care, and into what we now call wellness care. Do you know that Medicare took 20 years after seeing Dean Ornish and Nathan Pritikin's studies, 20 years, and they finally looked at the studies, and now Medicare approves, and you may not even be aware of it, of a 12-week course through Dr. Dean Ornish where they go through, listen to this, complete whole foods diet, exercise 3 times a day, meditation, yoga, stress management. They do this now, and it's approved for $5,000 for Medicare patients to attend weekly classes for 12 weeks. It took us over 20 years, but Medicare looked at the studies on diabetes published by Nathan Pritikin, my mentor, and cardiovascular disease. I didn't think I'd live long enough to see the stage. So the administration knows that if we can get people to follow this system, we have a chance to reverse most 15 out of 20 of the leading chronic diseases in our country, according to Dr. Michael Greger. By the way, the best nutrition book written in the last 20 years is How Not to Die by Michael Greger. I have a really beautiful podcast, and if you send that text, Nick, to 72,000, you'll get a gift of that podcast, I promise you. So, that being said, I went through my own odyssey. I went from this to eating, of all things, potatoes, fruits, vegetables, whole food nutrition. I was already exercising, but I was eating so much meat to bulk up for football that I gained weight that I couldn't possibly lose on that kind of eating plan of meat and dairy product. Once I gave up the meat and dairy product and I ate fruits, vegetables, beans and peas, rice. Look at, I'm holding to my stomach here, yes, but I was holding to my stomach here too. You can see the significant difference. This picture was taken just a few years ago. I'm in that good a shape or better. I have more muscle density now at the age of 61, having planning to compete this year at the Arnold Classic, not in bodybuilding, but in strength and endurance against the world's strongest strength endurance athletes in the world. We are a nation of estrogen dominance. When men have bigger boobs than women, and men by the age of 50 have higher estrogen levels than their wife sitting next to them, we know that there are 2 sources of estrogen. And everyone worries about the chemicals, the BPA, the additives, the preservatives, the pesticides, and rightfully so, because those are exposures of estrogen. But does anyone here in the audience know the leading #1 cause of estrogen exposure to men and women that's getting into the water, into the table water, into the crops, into our drinking water, into our foods? What is the #1 source of 17-beta estradiol, which is actually 10,000 times more concentrated than chemical exposures? In fact, some predict as much as 1,000,000 times greater exposure. What is that, ma'am? What is the answer? She said soy, and the answer is I've done an extensive research all the way up to 2012 where patients were put on soy, and they were breast cancer patients, and soy, the phytoestrogen, selectively went to the estrogen receptor sites and protected the women from breast cancer, and they had a much lower rate of breast cancer eating soy products, and when they did develop breast cancer, it was less virulent and their survival rate was substantially better. So what is that food that men, Jack Nicholson, right? The Joker, you ever see him with his shirt off?
Yeah.
Guys have bigger boobs than girls. What is going on? Do you really think guys want to be girls these days? Do you really think? Are you ready for the answer? Yes. What? Meat. You're right. Now listen, this is very important to get, folks. We're not talking about meat that's been injected with hormones, because animals in the U.S., they're still sneaking in injections of hormones to fatten them up. I'm talking about range-fed, clean, organic, from Europe, wherever you go, that even that meat is loaded with estrogen. Why? Because sheep, which is what? Lamb, pork, coming from pig, red meat, sirloin steak and so forth from cow, and chicken, and fish.
Even
Fish is loaded with BPAs. BPAs, if you look it up, the bipolyphenols come from plastics, and so when they swim in the ocean, all these toxins accumulate in their fatty tissue. So the fattier the fish, the more BPAs, the higher the estrogen exposure.
Wow.
But meat, here's what you don't know. In other countries, they do not allow the cows to be milked during their pregnancy. They eliminate that cycle because cows, when they're getting ready to go through the pregnancy cycle and then to lactate, produce massive amounts of estrogen. In other countries, it's not allowed. You cannot milk cows during their pregnancy. In the U.S., to keep up with desired increased yogurt and milk and cheese production, we milk the cows during their pregnancy cycle. It is loaded with so much estrogen that in yogurt, milk, and cheese, it's nearly 1 million times more estrogen exposure. According to a Harvard study, estrone, which is the harmful estrogen, was 33 times higher in estrogen exposure. In fact, there was a correlation to a higher breast cancer rate, prostate cancer, and associated estrogen-dominant cancers from consumption of milk and dairy products. It was safer to consume soy milk. I prefer coconut milk, almond milk, rice milk, preferably without the sugar added. But milk and cheese is a harmful, horrible exposure. If you want man boobs, guys, drink more milk, eat more cheese. Women, if you want your man to be more like a woman, keep feeding him that way. And maybe you should put a dress on him as well, and a bra. Do not forget the bra, because it might affect his ligaments of his breast tissue and cause sagging. But some of these guys got pretty firm boobies. So go to the beach and you'll see what I'm talking about. Jack Nicholson, you included. And I'm here to tell you that the diet that we live on, the structure of, Dan, there's a power cord in there, a black power cord. I need to charge this up because it says the battery nearly dead.
Oh, is it yours?
No, but it's in one of the side pockets or in one of the bags. Okay, sorry about that, being live and all that. So estrogen dominance. If you eat steak, if you eat chicken, these are not lean chickens anymore. The chickens are only allowed to run a few feet. In the biggest, most expensive chicken lots, they're allowed to run about the area of 6 feet. So they're not healthy chickens. They want them to not move so they get fatter. They want those chickens, the fatter they are, the more they can sell them to you. Because the weight of the chicken is how it's sold, correct? Like a turkey. The fatter the turkey, the more they can sell it to you for. So chicken, fish, whoop, yeah, see, I'm going to need that power. Chicken, fish, turkey, did you not find it? Not yet. You want to bring it close to me? You looked in here? So we'll change to this laptop. We'll just change to this one. Oh, I don't have the adapter to it. Ah, no slides. Don't worry about it. So, when we...
Actually, if you're not going to use the screen because your shadow gets in the way, it's distracting a little bit. You don't need to just turn it off.
Okay. We'll try that. Turn off the screen. So, boom. Did it work? Really? Ah, now you can see.
Good, thank you. Can we get some more light in the room then?
Sure. So, where is the estrogen coming from? Every time you eat red meat or light meat, lamb, pork, or any of them, those animals are loaded in their tissues with 17 beta estradiol. When you give this to children and men and women, you overload their body with massive amounts of harmful estrogens. You cause a higher risk of multiple cancers. And just like Nathan Pritikin discovered, when individuals eat meat, chicken, fish, turkey, dairy, that meat, because it's loaded with estrogen, the blood is tainted with excess harmful estrogens. There's actually 40 different estrogen metabolites to not get overly complex. There's a good form of estrogen called 2-hydroxyestrone, which tends to be at higher levels in people eating more cruciferous vegetables, plant-based whole foods. Those people eating more meat, cheese, eggs, and dairy product have more estrone, 16-alpha-hydroxyestrone, which is a very harmful, toxic form of estrogen. We can measure it very simply in a urine test. If you go to delgadoprotocol.com under test kits, or go to estroblock.com. You can order this test kit, and it can be sent to you, and you just pee on this little cardboard thing 4 times in the day, send it off to the lab up in Oregon, and it comes back with a breakdown of how much of these harmful estrogens compared to the good estrogens, compared to the androgens, testosterone, cortisol. It gives you a whole breakdown. Then you know if your body is loaded with estrogen. Or just look in the mirror. If your boobies are big, guys, you got high estrogen. If your prostate's enlarged, you have high estrogen. If you have a history of breast cancer or breast tumors or uterine fibroids, women, you have too much estrogen that's flowing through your body from your diet. I don't care if you drink your water in stainless steel, in glass, and you're very careful about cosmetics that have estrogens. You're very careful about filtered water. You're careful about xenoestrogens and pesticides, and you eat only organic. I don't care. The moment you eat meat, the moment you eat any kind of meat, you will be loaded with estrogen, and it stores in your fat tissue. So not only is it insulting that it stores in the body, when it stores in the fat tissue, high estrogen levels cause more fat cells to grow larger. Because estrogen is a molecule that when women, during their birth cycle, they have a huge increase in estrogen release to build more fat tissue to sire a baby and have enough calories to breastfeed and nurse. Make sense? That's why animals, during their menstrual cycle leading up to pregnancy in an animal, is loaded with estrogen, just like a female woman is loaded with estrogen for reasons. But it's not intended for human consumption. So, if that makes sense to you, and you are concerned about estrogen-dominant cancers, I looked at people and I said, what can we do to reduce estrogen dominance? And I found out the answer. But most people weren't willing to do it. To eat 2 pounds of raw cruciferous vegetables a day.
What kind of
To
vegetables?
eat 2 pounds of raw cruciferous vegetables like Brussels sprouts, bok choy, Napa cabbage, Savior cabbage,
Anything.
all the cruciferous vegetables.
Chris, what?
Cruciferous
What
with
that
a C,
means?
C-R-U-C-E-R-F-I-O-U-S, cruciferous. Broccoli, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cauliflower, Napa cabbage, all those. Listen,
What kale?
kale is partially of the brassicas family, but it's a good source of nitric oxide. So that being said, most people are going to cook it. So if you're going to cook it, crock pot, and if you add green mustard, wasabi from the mustard family, it intensifies these natural dim-diethylmethane, makes it more absorbable, along with turmeric. So I developed 2 supplements, Ester Block, which already has the equivalent per capsule of 2 pounds of raw cruciferous vegetables a day. It's got in the capsule a concentrate from broccoli and cabbage and so forth. And it's got wasabi, which is the mustard green family that wasabi helps to absorb the dim more efficiently. And it's got certain vitamin E and other nutrients that go together with indole-3 carbinol. And there was a controversy. Was it dim, diethylmethane, or indole-3 carbinol that was more effective at detoxifying and removing these harmful estrogens? I solved that. I said, who cares which is better? I'm going to use both. I put them both in the product, indole-3 carbinol and dim, diethylmethane, along with the wasabi root, and made a product called Ester Block Pro. And that is designed for anyone who's got more than 10 or 20 pounds above ideal body weight, if they have estrogen dominance, any of the symptoms I mentioned, they're a current cancer patient. Not that this is in place of your cancer treatment, but it would augment, improve your outcome and your benefit, and restoring your body to proper balance. Give it a fighting chance, if that makes sense. So, you take Ester Block every day, and you also add what's called Live Detox. Live, like L-I-V, like liver abbreviated, Live Detox. You go to Amazon, find this product, or go to our website, esterblock.com. And Live Detox has turmeric, it has asparagus, astragalus, and cypress. Now these herbs and phytochemicals help stop the aromatization or conversion of testosterone to estrogen. So our maker did a trick on us. Not only as we get older as men do we develop more estrogen from the environment, our very testosterone starts converting into more estrogen. So I discovered the herbs. I conferred with Dr. Chi and others, a specialist in oncology, and I looked at this information and I put together this Live Detox, but I put in Laetrile. Laetrile's apricot seed. Why? Because I figured the very people who need this most have estrogen dominance, and estrogen dominance turns out to be associated with most forms of cancer. So I want these people, but Amazon would not allow me to sell that product with apricot seed Laetrile on Amazon. So you can only get that from our website, the version with Laetrile.
Why?
Apricot seed, because there was a controversy in the Senate hearings that there was people saying that Laetrile could cure cancer, and anything with the C word is going to be competitive with the pharmaceutical industry, so they forced us to remove it. And so the version on Amazon is got all the ingredients except Laetrile. The version that we have on our website does have, if you're concerned or interested, and 1 in 2 people will develop cancer, I think that since it takes 20 years to develop cancer, you should do something preventative and take Live Detox. There's no guarantee it's going to prevent or reverse cancer, but I have a number of cancer patients at Hope for Cancer with Dr. Tony Jimenez taking Live Detox with Ester Block, along with Stay Young, which is rich in nitric oxide, and they are now using a hydrogen product that I've come about with, and this hydrogen perfuses through the body and donates unpaired electrons and stabilizes the body. So this is a package that I call the ultimate immune system package. I include adrenal DMG because your adrenals are critical to controlling your immune system. We have herbs in there that target candida. Some people believe that candida is part of the cancer etiology or development. We include herbs that target RNA, DNA virus. We include garlic. We include other herbs, dimethylglycine, DMG, which helps to serve as a methyl donor, which helps to detoxify harmful estrogens out of the body. Once Ester Block and Live Detox stop it in its tracks and start to clear out the body, you need the methyl donor to carry it out of the body. So this ultimate immunity package you can get for $99 here, show special, and try it out and change your diet at the same time. Start exercising, change your mindset, and you will then have such a powerful immune system as you get 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Your immune system becomes so strong, and as we know, by the age of 65, we have 10,000 times less effective immune system than when we're age 25. So you had youth on your side to protect you to a certain extent. But as you get older, you have to be more careful about what you put in your body, the supplements you select, and the thoughts that you have in your mind. You had a question at the back, ma'am.
You answered it. On your website, it's Live Detox with Esther Block. A moment ago, you said that you have a website with the word info in it. What was the...
Oh, yeah. There's a website, and some of them they have to restore, but it's fightdisease.info. And, and at that website, you leave your name and email, and it'll send you out a paper that I wrote to help my cousin had developed breast cancer. This was about 2 years ago, and she called me up crying, and she said, Nick, I don't want to do chemotherapy and radiation again. I did it before, and now the cancer's back with a vengeance. It's worse than it was. And the doctors said they would monitor me, but I wanted to seek some advice. And I said, look, I can't give you medical advice, but I can tell you what I would do if I were you. And we're going to go through these steps. And I wrote this whole paper with all these steps. And I've included that. And this has now been since shared with many doctors around the country, top immortality, anti-aging, oncology doctors. And they read through it and they go, wow, that is the most extensive list or a bit of information in 10 pages I've ever read. It has YouTube links. It has discussions. It has articles. And so if you go to the website, also estrblock.com, I promise to continue to publish information about estrogen and its dangers to the human race and how we become a feminine culture. Not that I'm against feminine, I love women. I have 5 children to prove it, ages 7 to 37, by 4 different women. I'm out of control. Someone's got to populate the world. If all these men become women, then someone's got to make babies. Oh.
That's right.
I'm sorry, live audience. I actually said that, didn't I?
What was the fight disease dot? Was it
Fightdisease.info. Any other questions from the audience?
Number 5.
Yes, Holly.
I have a question. I've heard that the estrogen from birth control
Ah.
should not be filtered through the water plant, like the city water plant, because it's so small.
First off, estrogen from birth control pills, you're absolutely right. It ends up in the general water supply, the landfill, and we are getting a huge amount of estrogen exposure because of birth control pills. And it's not a healthy kind of estrogen either. It's from horse urine, so it's synthesized so the pharmaceutical company can patent it under their pharmaceutical name. And so it's not even bioidentical safe like estriol. It's estrone magnified with its harmful types of estrogen metabolites. So I use reverse osmosis for my water, and then I put it through a mineralizer because the reverse osmosis took everything out. And then I put it through a Kangen pH device. And then I put it in a bottle, and I put hydrogen tablets in there, and I seal it. In 15 minutes, I drink that bottle down, and it perfuses trillions of molecules of hydrogen to start stopping the stages of tissue breakdown that some people would call, well, I couldn't even call it that, poor immune function. We'll just say irregular, out of control cells that are developing. These things are targeted. So my cousin followed this program. Guess what happened? At the end of 1 year, her oncologist was monitoring her without any intervention of chemo or radiation. And the new cancer tumors that had developed by the end of a year were gone. She had only one area where the cancer originally appeared that showed little or no activity, one little slight area. She dropped 43 pounds in that year. She changed her whole lifestyle. And now she's starting a product she consulted with me called CBD cannabinoid. Cannabinoid is a non-psychoactive nutrient that helps to build up the immune system and is used in a number of cancer patients. I'll just pass the bottle around. You can check that out. I'm concerned about the number of people that are undergoing harmful treatments And here you can get a bottle of cannabinoid, or we have the syringes of CBD. I'm going to pass it around. You can just take the dropper and just take like a little half dropper, take it in your mouth. It's got a delivery system. We don't do it intravenous. You just take it in the mouth orally. We have a syringe that holds the CBD in a gel, and you just squirt it onto a grape because it tastes really strong. And you just eat the grape with the CBD, and that's more for the patients that are referred to us that are challenged with cancer or have a lot of pain and inflammation. And that has 454 grams per the entire little container. It's like, we have it like for $120 for it, where I see it sold on Amazon for $600, and they're selling it without CBD because they have no verifiable testing. I say I've just been aware of a number of FDA warrants saying that not everyone with CBD has really CBD in their product. So CBD is something for people with post-traumatic syndrome, coming back from the war. They have a lot of anxiety. CBD has been known to help people with epilepsy. The higher concentrations are appropriate. This bottle has 100 milligrams of CBD in the entire bottle, which is a significant amount, a good amount of CBD. We can come out with capsules. I'm evaluating people I know people love to use capsules better than droppers, and it's just a little expensive for us to produce that, but we have it available. It comes in from Europe. It's the best in the world, what we're using. You had a question, Dennis? Yeah.
Yes, a friend of mine gave me some grass, some marijuana that was supposedly CBD.
Uh-huh.
Got it at a hemp store. What is the concentration of the stuff in there compared to your bottle?
It's
higher concentration.
Yeah, I can't really address what other products have. I just know that if they tell you there's a percentage of CBD mixed in with their coconut oil, it rarely has the percentage that they say. I can tell you that this has been sent by third-party lab analysis, and we get back the reports of 100 milligrams per the entire bottle, and in the CBD syringe gel, it's 454 grams of CBD in the entire amount. So some of the cancer patients would be using 2 or 3 of those syringes during, you don't inject it, it's just delivered in what looks like a syringe.
How many drops did you take of this? How many drops?
For preventative, you take like a half a dropper full. If you have something that you're working with your health practitioner, you could take it 3 times a day, a dropper full 3 times a day. So you'd end up going through a bottle, about 3 bottles a month, But what's the alternative, right? I mean, you're looking at how are you going to build up the immune system? How are you going to get these kind of results? And what do you need to do? You can't order it on the web through us, but you can call our office at 949-720-1554. That's 949-720-1554. Or if you just email to admin, A-D-M-I-N, at delgadoprotocol.com, they can get back to you with whatever your order is and whatever you need. You have a question, ma'am? Yes.
Can you put it in a smoothie?
You can put CBD in a smoothie, in a juice. You can mask it. It's a little bit strong in taste. Yeah, you can slip it into a drink for your significant other to keep them healthy. The nice thing is it's non-psychoactive, so you're not going to get them high. They may be disappointed about that, but you get a little euphoric. You do feel better. You feel like, oh wow, I feel good. And everyone who tries this product goes, oh, it really has CBD, because those who know the taste of CBD, and they go, oh, wow, that's pretty good. And at our table, we have a half ounce, we have a 1 ounce, and then we have the syringe, the much more concentrated. And you just call our office, 949-720-1554. Yeah, 949-720-1554. Yes, question, comment.
I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and I'm a registered nurse. So because I have a license, I won't deal with any of these products, right?
Right.
Then I ended up going to a nursing symposium, an 8-hour class for CEU credits to relicense on the positive effects of hemp and pot and CBD.
Right.
So I'm off Humira, which I had been on for a year, which majorly messes with your immune system.
Say a moment about Humira. Humira is the derivative of, the purpose
I
of
have no idea. But they give it to you if Enbrel doesn't work. So the 2 major big things that they have rheumatoid arthritis is Enbrel or Humira, which really does cut down on the pain, but it makes you immune compromised. Well, then you're going to get viruses and other things. So my guidance was get off of it. Find the alternative. So my chiropractor suggested the CBD. And I found the oil, and my gosh, such a difference. I could be like, like almost pain-free. I felt better and had more energy immediately because one of the major side effects is either diarrhea.
Come up here because they're not getting any of this.
Tiredness and fatigue.
Come up here and just say a few words because give her a big hand. This is really important. My friend here, who's a nurse, has an experience with an arthritic condition. And was it your doctor that recommended the CBD, or you just came across it?
My chiropractor recommended it.
Okay.
He was sleeping on my couch at the time, so it was great. Anyway, I didn't want to do these things because I didn't smoke pot in the 60s. I wasn't a hippie. I was a traditional fundamentalist person. But after going to this nursing symposium for 8 hours for CEU credits on the healing properties of marijuana, for cancer patients, they can smoke it. Now, I don't think smoking is great, but I really responded well to build up my immune system. And because they take my blood at UCLA frequently, I can see where my inflammation levels are. I know, and I really fully expect, because my doctor kept telling me I had the worst kind they had. And I said, you know what? I am not my diagnosis. Me and God got this handled. I'm going to find something. I'm going to be the best person you've ever seen with this. And later I may not even have it. So watch my smoke. Here we go. But the CBD really works and the oil works. But because of my hesitancy and because I had a license, I wasn't sure where to get it, but I know it's legal now. So chiropractors can get this for you. It's out there. It's out there, but it's like $70 for a little bottle, and which doesn't last like 2 weeks. But it comes in salves too. Now, I have really bad pain in my thumbs. So I found putting the salve on that was in the coconut oil took the pain away for the first time, better than any pain pill, better than the Enbrel, better than the Humira, because that didn't do it. So these things work. They're natural, and I find out our bodies have receptor sites in them. Why would God put a receptor site in your body for this substance and not expect you to use it?
Beautiful. Wow. Well stated. So my cousin has been using CBD every day. She continues on a whole foods unprocessed diet. I want to comment too, because I remember when she first started the whole foods unprocessed diet, her big concern was her husband, who's a gourmet chef, was used to making everything with meats and elaborate sauces. And sauces mean sugar and oil. And he freaked out. He calls me up and goes, how in the world do you expect me to follow this recipe book? There's no oil. None of the foods are cooked with oil. You have no oil in the salad dressings, in the casseroles. There's no oil. It's going to have no taste. I said, oh, wait a minute. I said, does olive oil really have a taste? I mean, really a distinct good taste? If you just drink olive oil, just drink it straight? Or isn't it absorbs flavors, and you're going to have to become a better cook, a better chef, like Chef AJ or my little 7-year-old Chef Roman, and you're going to have to watch my YouTube series at youtube.com Delgado /Delgado video, subscribe, and you're going to have to learn how to start preparing all your foods without grease. In other words, you're no longer going to the greasy spoon restaurant at your house. You're going to eat whole natural foods, and you're going to cook with vinegar, with herbs with vinegar that have wonderful absorbed flavors. You can get them through a lifestyle medicine group that I go to. If you're interested, send me a note or drop me a note on the Facebook or whatever feed you're seeing, and I'll source it out for you, and I'll play it for you. You'll get these amazing flavors, all the way from chili pepper flavors to sweet flavors to walnut. I have all these flavors at the last Lifestyle Medicine event, and I just sprinkle them into my food. And you cook with a hot pan with water, or you use crock pots. Use the water with garlic water. You can use you can cook wine. The alcohol cooks off. There's all kinds of methods you just haven't learned yet. And so he freaked out, but he said, I'll do it. A year to the date, he followed the diet perfectly. They would go to outdoor food, food markets, yeah, farmers markets, right? Organic farmers markets. They get all the fresh food. I go and I shop. I'm a single guy. I go and shop twice a week. My little 7-year-old loves the food that I serve him. I serve him. I had to change his school lunch because the school lunch, all they serve is pizza and hamburgers and all this estrogen. I want my little kid to become an estrogen-dominant, little guy with boobies. My little guy, Roman, he's at the 97th percent growth compared to kids age 7. So he's full stature. He's lean, not skinny. He's looks healthy and fit. He's energetic and happy. But the moment I give him gluten with the wheat gluten, or I give him a dairy product, emotionally he falls apart. He gets aggressive. All kinds of things start going on. Mood changes. I notice it. He gets stomach aches. Daddy, I'm so sick. So I feed him a Daya cheese pizza, which is like tapioca cheese, and it's got no dairy in it, and it's gluten-free pizza, and it's got the sauce, and he loves it. It's great. Have you ever tried it? Daya pizza cheese. Go to Mother's Market or Whole Foods or one of these places. We even have a recipe in our Simply Healthy cookbook that you can get this cookbook for free. Just go to estherblock.com or go to just text the word Nick to 72000, 72000, and you'll get a gift of a PDF of one of my books. The point is, their whole family, they had young kids too, went on a whole foods diet as a family together. The family who eats together, stays healthy and well, and doesn't get exposed to unnecessary medical interventions. Not that I'm opposed if you have an auto accident or something, but chronic diseases will never be solved by drugs and surgery and chemo and radiation. I am so out there that if you go to my website and you see the panel on vaccines I'm on, fightvaccines.com, my website, you're going to be shocked what I have to say about that subject, and that's for a whole nother topic. But I'm open to any other questions that you might have. Yes, Dennis, go ahead.
You mentioned about fats. I actually eat a lot of olive oil. I eat a lot of coconut oil. I gobble it down, and I think it's great. You said fats are all bad. Can you tell me about why coconut oil is bad?
Why is coconut oil, olive oil, and hemp oil a problem? Let's just get back to the simple basics. Let's remove the terms saturated, polyunsaturated, and monosaturated. It has nothing to do with the argument. That's a smokescreen that the oil industry wants you to believe is important, so they brag about their oil is free of saturated fats, or it's only monounsaturated fats. Throw that out the window. Nathan Pritikin described this over 25 years ago, and it's called lipotoxemia. He coined the term fat poisoning. When you eat walnuts, and you chew up the walnuts or the sunflower seeds or the soaked pecans or chia seeds, or you eat avocado or olives, there's fiber intact in that whole food, and when you chew it up, the oils and fats, which are not heated, absorb in your body at a very safe rate, very controlled. The moment, look up my video on YouTube, How to Become Diabetic in 6 Hours. And you watch partway through the video. Priscilla, I need your help. You'll watch partway through the video how, let me just give you the keys to the car. How, I thought I had it. No. Do I have? You'll watch how oil and fat pours into the bloodstream under a high-powered microscope. You'd have to have the equipment that I have. I think I left the keys. Oh. You know what the van is? I have a power cord that goes to this die. It's a black power cord in a black bag, and you unzip it there, or it's up in the room.
When Tracy's blood was on the screen, you saw the fat in the blood.
Yes. So Tracy, a gentleman who's a naturopath, if he was here, he wouldn't mind me saying, I'm sure. He was okay with us all looking at his blood, comparing to Dennis's. Tracy admitted that he had a soup and he poured olive oil into it. There was a whole load of fat in his blood. It looks like under a microscope, because a microscope at 6,000 magnification under phase contrast, without getting all detailed, you see the individual red blood cells, but in the background, you see these tiny little specks. And because of Brownian movement, fat particles move around very erratically. They're just moving, like bouncing around. And what's Brownian movement? It's just molecules smaller than your human eye can see, and it's hitting these fat particles. It looks like a snowstorm. There's so much fat when people drinking oil from their salad dressing, from their recipes that have a quarter cup of olive oil, from their eggs cooked in the morning with oil, from every source of oil that you're consuming. All that oil is so directly concentrated that when you take a little bit of oil in your hand and you put this hand, put some salt on it or sugar, you put salt or sugar with no oil and you turn your hand upside down, what happens? Those particles fall, right? If you put oil and you sprinkle a little Charlotte sugar, they call it donuts, they put some oil on the bread, what happens to the sugar? It sticks permanent until it gets in your gut. Oil is extremely sticky. So think of these salt and sugar crystals as little red blood cells. And red blood cells, how many red blood cells are found at the head of an ink pen?
6 million.
The head of a pin, there would be, by count, under phase contrast microscope, 8 million red blood cells. So imagine a droplet of oil going right through your lymphatics. Your immune system gets all filled up with oil, because that's where it goes in first, right through the lacteals, to the lymphatic, through the lymphatic system, which is, people don't even talk about the lymphatics, but it needs exercise, it needs whole food eating, all these things are important. That oil streams into the bloodstream and then it dumps right into the general blood circulation, and it coats all the billions of red blood cells with fat droplets. And when they touch each other, they stick. They stick together. And they stick together for up to 8 to 12 hours until you drink coffee and cut through the grease and it wakes you up because it's a drug stimulant. Or you learn to start eating whole foods without oils, and after about 3 days, your blood cleans up perfectly. And it looks so beautiful. The red blood cells, when they touch each other, they just bounce off and they don't stick. But when your blood cells are coated with all that coconut oil and olive oil and all this, bulletproof craziness where they're drinking oils every day, all that oil coats your blood cells. Now, I'm going to give you the best analogy. Is there a person in the room or watching this live feed that would ever tell me that the sugar from sugar beets, that sugar is good for you? Just have as much sugar as you want, right? Anyone here tell me sugar is good for you? Not one hand goes up, right? You all agree. Because the sugar beet, which was the whole food, which was processed, we figured out chemically how to remove that sugar out. And the problem with it is, although you have taste receptors for sweet that would help you like beets if you found them in nature, you bit into them, oh, this must be something a human should eat. It tastes good. But you take sugar, you're overwhelmed. You get 18 calories per minute shooting in your bloodstream. Your insulin goes wild. You get hypoglycemia. You have problems. You need the sugar, but not that concentrated. But is there a person in the room that would agree that beets, which has nitric oxide and fiber, that beets are good for you?
Yeah.
Every person in the room agrees beets are good for you. Beets are now being used by the top NFL, NBA, the top athletes in the world. They're using extracts of beets because the beets increase nitric oxide and improve performance. So I have a product called Stay Young, and I have another product coming out with beets, and Dr. Nathan Bryant has a product with beets. Wonderful. And the top pro teams in the world know this. Beets are great for you. Why are they great? They're unprocessed, they're whole, they're natural. Right? Now, olives. Nature gave us olives. Nature gave us corn. Nature gave us walnuts and sesame seeds. Nature gave us coconut. Nature didn't figure out machines to pull out the oil. Now, you pull all that oil out of that coconut meat. In the South Pacific, they eat a lot of coconut meat. They're big, genetically big, physically big people. They're a little heavy. They're muscular, but they have no heart disease. Saturated fat, coconut, no heart disease whatsoever, but they don't go around drinking a bunch of coconut oil. For eons, they've eaten coconut as it is. So when my little baby, after he was breastfed during the course when we went to Thailand, and the first introduction of foods, I got coconut water and a little coconut meat and blended it up so he could drink it. I got fruit, blended it up so he could eat it. Because, you know, a little baby, they're used to breast milk. Now the introduction of food starts with fruit, coconut, and then later some blended sweet potatoes. I never take them with the babies and the children out of level 1. You know how the jars say level 1? Because it's single food, simple, whole vegetables and fruit. After that, they start adding the meat and the dairy and all that, level 3 and 4, if you know what I'm talking about, little baby jars. Don't use that stuff. That's junk. That's why now my baby, Roman, who's now 7 years old, all my kids were raised this way. And when they deviated from it, and I remember Jason, who's now 37 years old, when his mommy was nursing and she was drinking milk, I just found a medical journal here last week that confirmed that milk consumed by the mother would go right from the cow's milk, the antigens would go right through their breast milk into the baby and cause colic and distress. And I told my wife at that time, I said, stop drinking milk. It's affecting our baby. He's up crying all day long. He's in distress. She says, you're crazy. I'm drinking milk. I'm not giving the milk to the baby. The baby's being breastfed. My breast milk is healthy and good. I said, let's go see Dr. Paul Fleiss, the top pediatrician, trained at USC, UCLA. He's a professor there. He's now since passed on. But he was also protecting us from vaccines. In those days, we didn't want to have vaccines. None of my kids, none of them had vaccination.
Good.
And he looked at my wife at the time and he said, the milk you're drinking is causing this baby distress. Colic, stop drinking the milk. She switched to Royce milk, almond milk, whole fruits and vegetables, no added oils. So during her pregnancy and nursing, she reached back to her ideal weight. You know how women give birth, and then that's the first cycle to gaining more and more weight because of all the estrogens and everything. And the colic went away in my baby Jason, completely gone. Don't underestimate even a teaspoon of milk, how dangerous it is to an arthritic, how it causes inflammation. Even a teaspoon in your coffee. Don't underestimate a tablespoon of oil. A tablespoon of oil has 14 grams of fat. It takes 14 ears of corn to make a tablespoon of oil. That is toxic. It's so much oil that it coats your blood cells. And in this video, how to become diabetic in 6 hours, you'll see me drink oil. You'll see me drink oil during the course of the video, and you'll see on the TV screen all the oil floating into my bloodstream as I stick my finger every hour on the hour for 6 hours to prove a point. And by the 6th hour, all that oil, then I capped it off with some pizza, cheese pizza. And I had a cheese sandwich with meat. Some said, oh, it was the bread. It wasn't the bread, trust me. It was the cheese, the meat, the estrogen, and all the fat. And my triglycerides went skyrocket, doubled, tripled. My glucose went to diabetic. And I proved I could put anyone and make them diabetic in 6 hours, including a healthy individual like me. The week leading up, I was eating rice, potatoes, fruit, vegetables, no meat, no dairy. My blood was pristine. I showed the first sample of my blood with a triglyceride under 45, a cholesterol in a good range. My blood looks immaculate on the TV screen. And within 3 hours of drinking that oil, my blood, and within another hour of eating that cheese, my blood was devastated. And during the video, you'll see me fall on the ground, and I'm literally unconscious, asleep, because of all the oil restricting blood to my brain. Because do you know red blood cells go through the capillaries one by one? And they go one by one. But if they're stuck with fat, they get clumped, 3 or 4 of them, and the blood doesn't get to the brain, and you get into a state of semi-unconsciousness. 20%, 20% less oxygen delivery in people using oils in their diet, including my cousin. I told her to stop using oil, go to coconut, whole meat, whole olives, whole nuts and seeds, stop the oil completely, and your blood will become able to protect you from the breast cancer, from the diseases, and men with prostate enlargement and cancer. It's going to help those men because oil has now been associated with high prolactin levels in women, which is the highest cause of breast cancer. And when they go off the oils and go to the whole plant foods, the rate of prolactin levels drop to safe levels in 30 days, and the risk of breast cancer, according to Dr. Ernest Winder, who was the first doctor to say that cigarette smoking caused lung cancer. People laughed at him when he said that cigarettes had anything to do with lung cancer. And I said earlier, cholesterol is also involved with that. But he said that when you cut the oils and fats out, he measured all the Pritikin participants. They were measuring their prolactin levels before and after. If they had known to measure their estrogen levels, that would have been the crowning blow to show both prolactin and high estrogen levels was the cause of overstimulation of breast cancer and you can eradicate that disease by getting off the oils and fats and reverse certain diseases. Yes?
Can I tell you my personal
Come on up.
for a minute? Thank you.
Doctor, you got 10 minutes.
Okay, quickly. 6, about 8 months ago, I was diagnosed with arteriosclerosis, not arteriosclerosis, with clogged arteries. I have 4 of them. Can you hear me? Okay.
Is it on? Is that,
I don't think
not
so.
right.
That's mine, but, oh.
Listen, everybody listen up. No,
I'll just speak louder.
it's okay. I'll,
Okay. Anyway, I was diagnosed with 4 clogged arteries, and
Hold them both. Hold them both. That's recording for
okay.
me, too.
And I chose not to have bypass surgery. I'm working with a nutritionist who looked at it and said that one of the problems is my cholesterol was at 135, so it wasn't a real cholesterol problem. But what I'm understanding is that the cholesterol has not really circulated enough. It kind of settles in certain areas of my body. And I've been a semi-vegetarian up to that time. I hardly had any meat. The person I worked with suggested I start including meat in my diet. Just not basically because it will help move the cholesterol more in a more how would I put it? It would move the cholesterol more easily throughout the body instead of settling in certain areas of my body. So I've been back to having meat, grass-fed, etc. Not a lot, but once a day I'll have a turkey or roast beef sandwich. So I want to get your thought is, what about this idea of the cholesterol settling in certain areas, and that I need to switch from a vegetarian to some meat to get my body stimulated more, so this cholesterol is more evenly distributed, and that's part of the information I'm getting. What are your suggestions?
Okay. Keep in mind that cholesterol itself is a waxy, sterile substance. It's not a fat. By category, cholesterol is a hormone. And to redistribute it from your body, keep in mind that there's what's called HDL, high-density lipoprotein, and its purpose is to go and attach to cholesterol that's in the arteries and pull it out and clear it through the liver. The problem is that when people have a high meat intake of any amount, anything more than an ounce or 2 a week, at the Pritikin Institute, we used what was called the Pritikin regression diet. Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, if you read the book, Prevent Reverse Heart Disease, who I interviewed recently, came out recently and he stated very clearly that the diet that we consume of meat and dairy will perpetuate and continue to build more and more cholesterol until one day it forms plaques that travel upstream, causes stroke, or clog up arteries to the heart. That's a heart attack. Arteries to your male organ, you have impotency. Those are the causes. It can only come from animal-based foods. It is not only inappropriate, it's completely wrong, and there is no basis in science to consume meat to redistribute cholesterol throughout the body. It'll only clog your arteries faster. So if you want to follow a program, use the Ester Block to clear out the harmful estrogens. Use Live Detox with its marvelous herbs to help the body to reduce harmful estrogens. Use DHT and CBD, DHT block, to combat harmful inflammation and stabilize the insulin levels. Get my book, Annihilate Acne Now Naturally. You can get that now at esterblock.com, a special book that 80% of young people have acne at some time during their life. 40% of adults continue to have adult acne. And it's an internal problem. It's not you rub a cream on the outside of the face. It's an internal estrogen-dominant androgen imbalance. And so when they take Ester Block, like eating 2 pounds of raw cruciferous vegetables a day, I just got a note from my cousin. She said one of her relatives, it cleared up her acne in 11 days, just taking Ester Block every day. Cleared it up in 11 days. And I have all the documentation because it has to do with an mTOR enzyme, mammalian targeted on rapamycin, which is now the latest research about cancer and estrogen dominance. And it only comes from foods high in leucine, the amino acid leucine. And that's in meats, chicken, fish, turkey, dairy products. Surprise! Those are foods high in leucine that cause mTOR to go up and target harmful stimulant growth of acne and obesity and cancer. The foods that are low in leucine that reduce the mTOR enzyme are fruits, vegetables, beans, peas, nuts, seeds, coconut, olives, all the whole foods. And that's what the group in the island in the South Pacific that I wrote about on my website, estherblock.com, called the Kitavayan people, islanders, who eat a lot of coconut, a lot of beans and rice and fruits and vegetables, and they have no acne whatsoever. When a Swedish investigator, a dermatologist, went to investigate, he said, I've never seen this. The whole population, they're clean, their skin is radiant, beautiful, no acne, no pimples, none of the stages that we see in our young people. I see these kids clearing up their skin, and it's just a pleasure to me. I'm going to finish with the one story out of respect to the group, because there's the next speaker coming up. What got me started in this was my own story, where I was fighting chronic obesity, high cholesterol, and had a history of a small stroke. But after 22 years of lifestyle medicine, a blessing came into my life, and that was Shelley, who, her and I had a child together, Nicholas, but we're standing over her gravesite. Because when he was born, 10 days after he was born, due to hyperthyroidism, a thyroid condition which relates to endocrine hormone disruptors, and I didn't know all of these things about hormones that I do now, 23 years later. She died 10 days after he was born on Thanksgiving morning. So it caused me, for most of my life, to search for solutions and answers so that you would never have to go through the trauma and the pain that I went through losing my soulmate and the mother of my child. So I have to tell you that I've studied extensively about the benefits of testosterone. I use herbs and supplements that restore men and women's testosterone. I use certain supplements that help to balance out the thyroid, the adrenals. And we're looking at aging now that I study with the immortality doctors. Is there a way to slow the replication of the telomeres, as the telomeres are the end of the chromosome? So there's certain supplements and herbs that I've discovered that's in the medical literature that I did not discover by myself, but we believe that can help prolong the quality of life. This is Jack LaLanne, you might recognize, at 95. He said, never eat things in packages or cans. Always eat whole, fresh food. And one of my good friends, Bob Del Montique, you can see him age 17, age 67. Look at age 80. Wow. Muscular, ripped, amazing individual. And he was a throwback from the bodybuilding era, so he was eating meat in his diet. In the last years of his life, I convinced him to switch over to whole food, plant-based nutrition. It was a little bit late because he had a underlying 20-year battle with cancer, and it finally took his life. But the bioidentical hormones, the physical training, the exercise, the eating whole food. Here's another great story. Jeffrey Life, he's the guy that they always show in the flight magazines and Centogenics about, anti-aging. Here he was, age 54. Here he is, age 64. Now he's 77. In a recent interview, he had a heart attack last year on his meat-based diet because, all these bodybuilders and fitness guys think they got to eat meat to build up muscle. And he learned from Dean Ornish, one of the lifestyle medicine doctors, that he could give up his chicken, his fish, his turkey, his meat, his dairy, and switch over to plant-based proteins. So this whole year, he's been vegan, and he's in better shape than he's ever been, back on his bioidentical hormones, his exercise routine, and eating a plant-based diet. There's more proof, then, that you can be in fabulous shape in your 70s and 80s eating a plant-based diet with balancing the hormones and herbs and supplements. This is Bernardo Lopello. In 1901, he was born. Math, quick math. He's 116 years old. He walks 2 miles every morning. He eats whole, fresh food. He's mostly vegetarian. He puts oil on his skin. He doesn't consume it. He rubs it on his skin. You can look up on YouTube him demonstrating whole foods, food preparation with raw food, and he lives in Arizona. He's 116 years old. So that being said, blood doesn't lie. Come next door. I've been doing this test for about 40 years. One of my colleagues trained me from Germany years ago, and I can give you just an overview of a sample of what blood should look like and not give you clinical or medical advice, but you'll learn quite a bit. So look into nitric oxide, stay young. We'll measure your nitric oxide levels, measure your inflammatory response, learn how to balance your adrenals, unlike Robin Williams, who was stressed out, and like many of the movie stars, how they succumb to addictions and drugs and chemicals and alcohol because of poor adrenals, is my opinion. Get a special 25% off by getting 4 different products. Learn about in my website, nickdphd.com. Go to nickdphd.com and register for my classes, my free web classes every week. on how to reverse obesity, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, high blood pressure, learn about lean and fit, learn about what babies should eat, what athletes should eat, learn about the whole food Tarahumara Indians, their incredible energy and performance, and see me in my 2 world records. I'll end on this. Here's me lifting nonstop for 1 hour, 50,500 pounds, a world record that still hasn't been broken, and I'm 61, and there's no man on the planet that can beat me now.
Awesome.
And that's on a plant-based, whole foods, power of the mind, well-being program. Thank you very much. I'll be at the booth next door for any questions.
You have a 2-hour workshop from 4 to 6. You'll be in the workshop room today if you guys follow up on it.
Yeah, could you go back to that last slide of the guy with the 116 years old? Just want to take a picture of him. How's today?
Oh. Yeah, look at the different hormone levels, get my books. Here, I didn't get to show you that, but I'll go back to that.